In this video, we will go through physical and chemical properties of matter. We will start with physical properties. A physical property is basically a characteristic of a substance that can be observed and measured without changing the identity of the substance. So you can basically cut it up, make it into smaller bits, and it doesn't change what the substance is. Physical properties can be observed with the senses, such as touch, taste, sight, sound, and smell. So things like you can describe like the color, the texture, or the odor, but never the taste, even though we'll include taste in the list. Physical properties can also be observed through tests and measurements such as length, mass, and volume. So a physical property can take on quantitative or qualitative observations. Some examples of physical properties include the state, so is it a solid, liquid, or gas? The luster, is it shiny or dull, or how well it reflects light? The texture, so describing how it feels, the object feels, is it smooth, is it rough, is it bumpy? And clarity, how see-through the object is. Malleability is the ability to be rolled into sheets. Brittle describes the ability to be shattered, and ductile describes the ability to be stretched into wires. Viscosity describes an object's resistance to flow. With chemical properties, this refers to the ability of a substance to react and form a new substance. So with a chemical property, you'll take one substance and turn it into a different substance. A chemical property describes how matter reacts when it is exposed to different substances. So examples of chemical properties would include absorbs heat during a reaction. So for example, something becomes cold, so an ice pack is an example of has chemical properties to it. So when you break that ice pack and mix those two substances together, and it becomes cold, that is a chemical property. So another example would be emits heat during a reaction, or becomes hot, or in the opposite of the ice pack is that hot pack. So same idea. If something is combustible, so the ability of a substance to burn in the presence of oxygen to produce heat and light. So for example, methane, which is also referred to as natural gas. So natural gas in the presence of oxygen and a spark or a flame will combust to produce new substances. Other chemical properties include forming a gas when heated, reacting with water, reacting with acids, forming a precipitate. Precipitate is basically a solid in a solution, little white or little bits of solid that form and then will basically settle to the bottom of whatever that solution is in. Other properties include a substance emitting light during a reaction. Chemical and physical properties can be described as a qualitative or quantitative observation. Qualitative observations, if you recall, are observations made using the senses, such as sight, touch, taste, and smell. So they are observations without detailed measurement. Some examples of qualitative observations include color, so describing something as colorless, black, or red. You can describe the odor, being as sweet, pungent, or moldy, the texture being rough, smooth, or bumpy, or the luster being shiny or dull. And these would all be qualitative observations. A quantitative observation is a property that can be assigned a particular value or something that is measured. So examples of quantitative observations would include things like viscosity, melting point, solubility, conductivity, or density. These all have a particular measured value to it. So in the following examples, we'll look at, you'll have to determine whether it's quantitative or qualitative. And so we'll have a look at those now. So in the first one, the concert was very loud. This would be considered a qualitative observation. So we're describing how loud it was. The reaction took 48 seconds to occur. This would be a quantitative observation. Grass was green. So here we're describing the color. So it would be qualitative. The water was cold. Again, qualitative, so we're describing the temperature of the water. The sugar plus sulfuric acid turned black and then grew to a height of 20 centimeters. This is both quantitative and qualitative. So here we're describing the color that was produced, and that we are providing a measurement of how high the reaction grew to. So there are four ways to observe and describe matter. There's the qualitative physical property. So for example, lemons taste sour. There's the qualitative chemical property. Gasoline is extremely flammable. There is the quantitative physical property. Gold melts at 1063 degrees Celsius. And the quantitative chemical property. 20 milliliters of hydrochloric acid reacts violently with 2 grams of magnesium. So now, during class time, what we'll do is the definition chart that you have, you can work on that during class time and complete that using your textbook or the internet, whichever one you feel comfortable with. And then the last 2 pages within the note, also look to complete those as well. So that will end this lesson about chemical and physical properties.